Yo, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to another MoBetta trading episode. Today is Wednesday, right? Is today Wednesday? Tuesday? Oh golly, man. Today is Tuesday, August 26th. Hope y'all are having a wonderful start to your week. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin price chart as well as going over some of the altcoins that are showing a lot of strength right now. So yeah, without taking up too much time, let's just go ahead and get right into it. The last video that I made, I believe Bitcoin was breaking out here. It had touched about 124,000, hadn't got quite to 125K, but it had broken its previous all-time high that it set here back on July 14th. Had broken the all-time high of 123,218, and since then has just sold off, right? So what happened basically, and why Bitcoin is selling off is essentially it just trapped a lot of the people who are longing the breakouts, right? You got your breakout longers here. They got triggered in, and price just dumped, right? Now you got all of these stops being taken down here, all of these stop losses being taken, all of these stop losses being taken, right? Essentially, they all got liquidated. This is a liquidation. This is what happens. This is how the market moves. This is just how it works. You get people triggered in long, thinking that if they don't get in long here, they're going to miss the blow off top. What does it do? It corrects. This was about what, a 10% correction, maybe a little bit more than that, almost 13% correction, right? So then you liquidate everybody who got long here. And now you've got everybody who is thinking that because we broke support here, that we're going to continue down towards 100K. You trigger them in, and what is it going to do now? It's probably just going to waddle around here for a little while before it gets back up, shoots out, right? It is possible at this point that Bitcoin has put in its top for the cycle. It's possible. I still don't think that is the likely situation. I still think that Bitcoin has got another leg left in it where we push probably up to, I want to say like 135, 140K maybe, before we get the real crash, the start of the bear market where everything finally takes its tumble, including altcoins, right? But the way that it's looking right now, I think we're still holding a good level here. As you can see, we came down into the previous previous support area. This was an area where we broke out from, right? And if you can see, Bitcoin is practically perfectly back testing the price level that it broke out from at 110K. Boom, came down, tested it, right? We touched the low of $108,666, and now is looking to try and reverse off this level. Now we'll have to see whether it is going to be able to do that. Of course, it is coming towards the end of the month, right? Today is the 26th, so we only have a few days left until the start of September. And September, I think, is where we're really going to get our answer whether or not the bull run is over for Bitcoin, or whether it has another leg left in it. But as it stands right now, the only real time we should be concerned is if we get closes below this $107,000 area. In my opinion, we start closing candles below $107,000, and then you can say, okay, well, you start closing below there, and you're probably looking at the not the run. It's not just going to go straight line down. We'll probably get some flushes down, and then we'll bounce up, and then kind of set in this kind of head and shoulders look, right? And that would be the end of Bitcoin as far as the bull run is concerned for the foreseeable future. But until this kind of presents itself, everything is still, in my opinion, intact, right? It is intact. If we can get this daily candle to close here bullish, and then we can get the next daily candle to break that bullish candle high and start pushing back up towards this area of resistance around 117,000. I think this is going to be the area where we really see, okay, if Bitcoin is going to continue pushing higher, when it gets to 117,000, we'll need to see some strength, reclaim this level, and then move up higher. Otherwise, we could just be in a phase where Bitcoin is already put in its top and gets up to here and it can't really make a high, and then it starts retracing. But in this moment here is where altcoins like Ethereum, Solana, XRP, etc., your favorite altcoins, whatever they may be, that is where they get their parabolic move higher, right? And even if Bitcoin stalls here, altcoins push. Okay, and I think that no matter how it plays out, whether Bitcoin has another high to put in or whether it has officially topped already, as Bitcoin starts to retrace up into these levels, this is where your altcoins are going to finally get their parabolic move. Obviously, we haven't had a parabolic move in altcoins outside of Ethereum. Ethereum finally touching a new all-time high this past Sunday. Outside of Ethereum, pretty much every other altcoin is sitting minimum 20-30% off their previous all-time highs. Some of them even 50 to 60% off their all-time highs. And so we haven't really had an alt season, right? If that makes sense. But with that being said, if we're just looking at, okay, what can we be anticipating here? What can we be anticipating here for Bitcoin as far as its next immediate moves are concerned? Okay, so we need a strong candle closure. Obviously, we've had 1, 2, 3 pretty strong bearish daily candles develop here over the last week. And we haven't had, very strong bullish candles outside of what happened on Friday, right? We got a Friday candle that broke resistance and closed really strong, but we could not break above Friday's high, and that is why we just started selling off. So what we'll need is either maybe some sort of doji candle to show up. So, this could be a pretty weak candle, but we could get one, say we end up with a bearish candle that kind of pushes down, right? And it pushes down and sweeps these lows here, but then closes back above, something like this. God, we're going to just pretend that is a doji. All right, we're going to pretend that is a doji. Just color that whatever color you want, whether that's orange or whether that is white, or if it's green or red, whatever the fuck color you're using. Okay, and then we would need a candle to break above this high that is set, and that would set us in to fill in this range here, right? So, the markets are all about filling inefficiencies, and essentially that's just all it's done here, right? We sold off for several days, got the push up to new highs, and then came and basically filled in this inefficiency or fair value gap or whatever the hell you want to call it. Filled in the inefficiency between here and here. Now, why is it an inefficiency? What is it? What is a fair value gap? What is an inefficiency? All that means is that in between this area, you see how you notice there's no wicks between this body, right? There's no wicks in between right here. Price came and filled. That means that there are no buyers that were able to enter in their positions, or sellers that were able to enter into their positions here. And so price came and retested it and filled in this gap that was left behind in the order books, right? Now, if you were to actually pull up an order book, you would notice that there's a lack of orders placed in this area until we got into here. Now the orders got filled, right? You see these wicks came in and pretty perfectly filled in this inefficiency, dipped a little bit lower, filled in this inefficiency here. And now we're reversing off of it. Okay. So, so what we need to see is a candle that closes strongly in our favor. And also you want to see, my favorite way of putting this is, you want want to see time and space develop on the charts, right? And what that means is much like if you were to go back here, okay, let's just take it back a little bit. All right. Here, candles are printing right next to each other. Okay. Obviously, not once we break this support area, candles are no longer printing next to each other, which is why we continue to sell off. This bullish candle is printing right next to this bearish candle, and it was unable to close above this bearish candle like really strongly. Okay, this is an okay close, but it's on a Sunday. It's on an illiquid Sunday that people are not participating. And when I mean people, like big institutions, hedge funds, any of those kind of things, right? Like they are not participating on a Sunday. So what do you get the next day? Boom. Okay. You got price to push a little bit higher, but still not a very strong candle. Okay. And as far as they're concerned, like there's no space here for price to move higher. So then you get the next day, we get a retracement. You fill in some of this area here that, was left behind on Sunday. Some of the illiquid orders that were placed on Sunday. Boom, you got that price pushed down, and we closed back above 114,000, which was, above the Monday's daily low. Okay, so we closed within Monday's candle. Now, what this does, now you see, while price is printing side by side, right? You don't want to be, this essentially becomes a no trade zone in between here. In between this area, this is a no trade zone because price can do anything. It can push down here. It can kind of just waddle around. It can do whatever, right? There's no trade to be taken until price breaks out above resistance that has now formed. If price breaks out above resistance that is formed here, now you have what is called space, right? You have space for price to move higher to fill this run of bearish candles. It's a clean range above here now. So you don't trade in between here. You only trade when you get price to break out above resistance. If price breaks above resistance, that signifies that price is no longer looking to go lower and has now disrespected a resistance that was formed, meaning that it has the ability to continue pushing higher. Okay? So if we forward the next candle, okay, boom. You got price to push above this resistance candle high, but it didn't close above it, right? Candle closes are extremely important. They're the most important thing, okay? So even though price broke above resistance, it still closed back within this range, signaling that it's not completely ready to go higher yet. It is still capped at this resistance level, even though it took some liquidity here. It's still capped below 115,000. So now we have an idea. Okay, we could say if price were to break above this candle's high now, this bullish candle's high, that should give price room to move higher. And what do? Boom, we test down. Now we officially break this high, and we immediately start filling in this range. And from there, price just continues going higher and higher and higher. We never come in and break this low, right? We got a couple of bearish candles that developed here. Very weak bearish candles. You see how the bodies closed much smaller than the wick. This body closed smaller than the wick to the downside. This body closed smaller than the wick to the upside, meaning that this signifies that bulls are still in control here until price were to break. If price were to have broken below this candle, again, this is on a Saturday, so it's kind of, a mute point to use this candle as an example. But If price were to have broken below this candle's low, then you could say, okay, we're probably going to come back down and fill in this price range back towards 112K. But it didn't. Continued pushing higher. Again, this is on a liquid Sunday, so take that for what it is. The next candle takes all this liquidity, but is unable to break above this high, and then ends up closing bearish. Now, to me, when I see this, if I were to see a candle like this, I would need the candle to break below this low, and that signifies that this move is no longer going higher. And it never broke below this low, so it continued just to push up. Boom, pushed up, broke above this high, etc., and then sold off, right? So hopefully y'all kind of get the idea of what it means for time and space, right? Again, candles printing side by side. None of these are really good opportunities, in my opinion, to take trades higher until this candle shows up. You got a bullish candle show up, you break this high, then you can fill in this wick, right? That would probably be the extent of the move for me if I were to have taken a trade there. This is obviously 2020, so hindsight is always 2020. So easy to say what you would have or would not have done in this moment because you can see what the candles are printing. But anyway, so again, this was a good example of price consolidating and allowing space to develop before pushing higher. Now, what that means here is, okay, we have candles just printing side by side. We have a bullish candle printing after the bearish candle. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the next candle here ends up being, bearish. Maybe it is something like this, right? Who knows what it's going to look like, but you can at least give yourself an idea of what you would want to see. Right, so maybe it finishes like this, and you have a wick that respects this low, something like this. God, these candles are so bad. Anyways, finish something like this, and then you have, okay, support is being created and respected here. Okay. And then, much like over here, right, where you saw resistance being formed, if the next candle were to be able to, boom, break above it and finish out bullish, then you say, okay, now we have a little bit of space developing. Still might even get a bearish candle develop here, right? Still might get a bearish candle to develop something like this, right? Whatever, just visualize this. Something like this. And then the next candle, okay, now you got resistance formed. Now you got support formed. Now the next candle, if it can break above both of these highs and respect this candle's low, then we have a clean range above here that could take us all the way back towards $117,000, right? It's about a 5% move. Okay, and just picture this as, it's probably not going to look like this, but, if it did, that would be awesome, right? Get a really strong candle to break above this, boom, fill in this range, and that's a great trade. Okay, but as it stands right now, where we're looking at right now, there's not enough information. Okay, we don't have enough information. We don't have enough confirmation on the chart to be able to say the next candle will be an easy move up to 117,000, right? You have to let time pass, let price develop, and allow it to give you a sure as shit trade opportunity. Something that you look at and you say, okay, I've seen this 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 times as a trader. I know that now that there's been enough time elapsed, there's been enough price developed, now I have a good idea that price is either going to go higher or going to go lower, right? Whichever way you see price developing. Okay, until then, you just do nothing, right? There's nothing to do at this point. We see that we have back tested this high, but we don't have any confirmation that price is ready to continue higher or lower. We don't know, right? For all we know, price could literally just sit here and range bound at this level until we get something that's able to close above this range, and then it can go higher. Okay, so until that happens, I think you just sit on your hands on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not the trade to be looking at right now. Okay, so yeah, I still think, again, I think that we're still in a bullish phase, even though we have taken a pretty decent pullback. We haven't broken any major structure yet. Okay, so until we break some major structure, I think that we're still good looking for longs at support. And until we can get a break and a close above 125,000, we're still looking for shorts at resistance, right? That's the name of the game. You buy low, you sell high. You don't buy high and you sell low, right? That should be common sense, but it's a lot harder for people than you would think, right? Now, if for some reason, by the end of the day, this candle just fucking rocket shipped up and closed above 114K, then you can say, okay, well shit, maybe price is just saying fuck it and we're just trying to go higher now. Right? You could look for some longs tomorrow. But as it stands right now, even if the candle were to finish like this would not be indicative of strength for buying, in my opinion. You have to wait for more price action to develop. Okay, and again, keep in mind that we're coming in at the end of the month, so it could just take some time, right? It could take the next 4 or 5 days of just waddling sideways before September comes, and then we get a September rocket, right? Cool. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at on Bitcoin right now. I think that we are going higher. I think as long as we hold $108,000, we are good for higher prices. I think we get one last leg to push higher into the 130, 140K region. And then that is going to be the end of the run for Bitcoin. All right. Meanwhile, go ahead and take a look at ETH. Notice the relative strength difference, right? Where Bitcoin is sitting all the way low in this price range. Notice how, just look at the difference. Bitcoin is, again, 13% off of its high. Ethereum, on the other hand, is 7%. So it's halfway. It's lost half the value that Bitcoin has lost. Okay, so it's sitting at about 7% off of its previous all-time high that it created here at 49.56. Now, what does that mean? So, as it stands right now, again, this is not a place where you want to be looking for longs on Ethereum. Okay? This is basically, we're sitting in the middle of nowhere, right? We're sitting in the middle of this range between $4,000 and $49.56. Okay? This is just kind of waddling around, right? So there's only two ways that I would be looking to get involved in a trade on Ethereum right now. And that is if price stalled, came back down here and swept this low, recovered it, and then moved higher, you could look to get into a long on the recovery of this level. Or if Ethereum is just going to waddle around here and kind of consolidate up here, I would look for some momentum or a wedge to be formed here. And then on the breakout of this area, boom, I'm getting long here. You could wait for the back test if you wanted to, but if you wanted to just get out on the breakout, if you're a breakout trader, right? You get out on the breakout here and Bitcoin or Ethereum enters price discovery. You just hold and wait. Wait for some maybe consolidation to happen. Then you get a break below here and you could get into a retest here or something along those lines. But as it stands right now, we are literally in the middle of this range. This, again, just like what Bitcoin was in, this is a no trade range for me. In my opinion, This is a no trade range. Okay. Now you can go on to the lower time frames, right? I'm obviously looking at this on the daily time frame because the daily is a stronger time frame than the 4 hour, than the 1 hour, than the 30 minute, etc., etc. But until we get a definitive candle to break above this area of resistance, say even if it gets above 48.70 and closes above here, then I think we have a good opportunity to take price higher. Until that happens, there's literally nothing to do here. Right? I hope y'all can understand why that makes sense. Because if you were to try and get long here, right? Well, you have, say you were to enter right now, you have resistance right overhead, right? It's a 5% move overhead, but there's no guarantee that you just go up into this resistance, right? You could enter here, and then the next candle is going to drop down all the way and retest this support, right? And this could be a bearish candle. Then you're like, oh, well, shit, now what do I do? Well, now I want to go short. I want to go short, but I have support here and I have support here, literally right below. If I were to get into a short here, well, price could come down here and then bounce back up, right? So the point is that it's messy, right? And you never want to get involved in a trade where price action is messy. You don't want price action to be messy. You want it to be as clean as possible, okay? And for me, there's only two ways that you're going to get a clean move. And that's if price develops a bullish candle on support at the lower extremity of the range, which is in this case at 40.60, or if you get price to close above the upper extremity of the range, which is above 48.75. Okay? So either you need price to break and close above here, and this would signal if we get price to break above this high, then okay, that triggers a long. Or you get price to come down here and close above this area, right? Even if it's like a doji or something, you want it to close bullish above this support. You know, something like this can have a wick to the downside. Okay? You can have a wick that comes down here, but you want it to close back above 40.70, 40.60. And then you can say, okay, now if price breaks above this candle's high, and granted, you know, maybe it looks something like this where we got, you know, white candles or bearish candles, whatever color your candles are. You know, say we get something that comes down like this, right? Whatever, you get the idea. These candles are just going to print next to each other, but whatever. Now we get something like this, and then we get a bullish candle to develop after we've had some strong moves into support. Now you can say, okay, well, now if price breaks above this high and respects this low, then I can say definitively we have a range that we can trade back towards the top of the range at 48.70. That would be a good trade idea, okay? But as it stands right now, there's not enough information to give you a clear idea for a trade, okay? And until we get candles to break and close below 40.70, if we were to get a strong candle that broke like this, boom, say it just breaks below here, then the next candle, if it were to wick up and respect this candle's high, but instead break this low, well, what do we have over here? Now we have a clean range of candles all the way down at least to 35.96, but more than likely you'd get it to retest all the way down to 33.80. Okay? Right? And then that would even give us a look like, okay, well, it's consolidated up here, broke below consolidation. If you break below consolidation, you're headed to the next area of major support. Okay? Until any of those things happen, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. You just sit on your hands and you wait. Now you can be like, well, this candle finished really strongly bullish and then formed a resistance on Saturday, and then it broke above here on Sunday and it rejected instead of going higher. Well, that's because it happened on an illiquid Sunday. Again, major participants are not involved in the markets on a Sunday. So even though Friday was a really nice push up to the range highs, Saturday and Sunday are weekend days. You can essentially just, whatever price action does on a Saturday and Sunday, just erase it from your memory. It has no bearing on what price is going to do, right? And even at that, Sunday's candle finished very weak. It finished with a doji candle at resistance and then broke the low. You could have gotten into a trade here on Monday. As it broke this low, you could have taken it and filled in this inefficiency, right? Again, talked about inefficiencies. Look at this. There's a wick. There's a wick. What did price do? Filled in this entire body that had no interaction and reversed off. Okay, so again, you can't see into the future, but you can plan on what you want to see and what would get you to enter a trade. Okay, and for me, again, as I laid out, the only things that are going to get me into a trade is if we form a bullish candle on support around 40.60, or if we break and close strongly above 48.75. Those are the only two ways that I'm interested in getting long, period. The only way I'm interested in getting short, if we close below 40.60 strongly. We would have to definitively break below 40.60 for me to get involved. Otherwise, there's nothing to do, right? ETH can literally trade sideways like this for fucking ever. Just like Bitcoin trades sideways forever, right? Until we get a clear and definitive break above or support developed at an extreme level of the range, there's nothing to do. Okay? There's nothing to do. And that doesn't mean you can't take some scalps in this range if clean candles develop, but as it stands right now, this is very messy, right? This is very messy. You can see that there's no clean range. There's no clean range in here. So for me, there's just nothing to do. All right? I do think that ETH goes higher. Obviously, you know, we're sitting just below the previous all-time high that it made at about 4,800, right? We're sitting just below that. And one of the things that I like about it is that we're kind of just coiling in here, right? We're not making lower lows. If anything, we made a higher high. We're making a lower high now, a lower high than here, or a higher low, excuse me. We're making a higher low than here, and we're still making higher highs. So once we get a candle that breaks above here and really confirms that we're setting in another higher high, then you can take the trade higher. Okay? Until then, there's nothing to do. Cool. So let's go ahead and move on to Solana. Again, same thing. I hope that y'all can see and understand how this is not a clean range. Okay? Again, just like Ethereum, just like Bitcoin, we have a range that is developed here. You can see that we have support being developed here around $173. We have resistance that is capping price at around $210. And you can see these are areas where price is reversed, right? Boom, touch $173, reverse back towards $210. Touch $210, boom, reversed all the way back towards $175. Touch $175, boom, all the way back to, right? Is literally ping-ponging back and forth. This is just consolidating. And there is nothing clean developed right now. You don't have any clean range. If you were to take a trade, if price were to break below $185, You literally have support that has already developed at $177 and it's tested it multiple times without being able to break through here. So taking a short in this area is not a good idea. By the same regard and in the same respect, you have resistance developing $13 above where price currently is. And this resistance has rejected once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, right? You've rejected 5 times. So taking a trade here and hoping that you're not going to reject at $210, that's gambling, right? You need a candle to develop and to close above here. I would say even it would be better to have the candle close above any of these wicks. If you can get a candle to close strongly up here, then you can say, okay, now we'd have to go all the way back in time. You got a little bit of resistance here at $214, but if we're showing that resistance is not being respected at $210, the next area of resistance is here at $240. Okay? And you can see price consolidated at $240, bounced around, boom, broke through, retested the underside, and then crashed all the way down towards $100. Okay, so this is going to be a major area of resistance. This would be somewhere where you would be looking to say, okay, if price gets back up here in this area, as price has told me historically, you get into the $240 range. This is probably an area you should start to look to de-risk in the immediate term. Now, it could get up here and reject off, but just kind of sit right here, right? If it does something like this, okay, then you could say, now, if it breaks above this channel, boom, it's probably going higher. It's probably going to retest these highs, right? But if it gets up here, touches this area, and then just boom, ricochets, that is like, okay, well, if it gets up here and it starts just immediately rejecting off, maybe I can look for a short in this area back towards this $240 area, and maybe price kind of like consolidates down over here, right? Sorry if y'all can hear my baby. She's being a menace right now. That's one of the reasons why the videos have not been coming out as frequently as they were, because let me tell you, dealing with a newborn, I mean, she's almost 4 months old at this point, but dealing with a newborn is something that cannot be explained. You have to experience it. Anyways, let's get back to the chart. So as it stands right now, again, we are in a no trade zone. This is a no trade zone for me. Some people may see this as an opportunity to trade. I don't see this as an opportunity to trade. Not a good one, at least. And I'm only looking for good trade opportunities. If the trade does not, if I don't look at the chart and I'm like, holy shit, this is a good spot for me to be in, I need to enter this trade, then I'm not entering it. It's very simple. Okay? You need candles to develop strongly, and you need them to develop in a location that makes sense to you. Okay? So cool. Again, Solana, I think if we break above $210, $212, we have room to run to 240. Okay? And if we can get up here and show some strength, then, probably $300 in the works. Right? But as you can see, it doesn't make sense to short an uptrend, and a very strong uptrend at that. At this point, Solana is in a very strong uptrend, but you just don't have the confirmation from candles that you need in order to give you a solid and valid trade idea. Okay, so right now, just do nothing. Again, this is a 15% range. So now if price were to say get up into $210 and kind of reject it again, right? But wasn't like this strong, obviously, because this just wasn't a good trade to take, again, because you got support down here, and then price never even broke below this low, so it just wasn't a trade to take anyway. But if we were to get up here and reject, This up in this area, up in this upper area, is the only place where you'd be looking to take a short if price were to develop bearish, because you're forming a bearish candle at resistance. A bearish candle at resistance, you should take a short. Very simple. Okay? Until something like that happens, just do nothing. All right, so let's move on to XRP. XRP is actually showing a ton of strength right here. Now, this is what I was talking about. Now, if you were to get a candle like this and develop on Bitcoin, now this gives you a really strong idea like, okay, shit, XRP might be ready to make its move back up towards its previous all-time high that it set earlier in the month at $3.60. Okay? You have some resistance developing or developed right overhead here. Okay? So you could definitely have price reject off of this area, as it has once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, right? But the moment that we get a candle to close above here, a bullish candle to close above here, now you have clean range from this level up to 335. Right, where obviously there's a ton of resistance, a ton of really strong resistance at that. Okay, so this could be an area where you're looking to de-risk and wait to see if price is going to give you confirmation that it wants to move higher. Again, much like Solana, if it did like this and just started kind of like forming a little wedge but consolidating strongly up here, then you could say, okay, as long as we hold this area, boom, you get a break above here and that's good to go. Then you have another clean range from here to $3.58 where price can continue moving higher. Okay. One thing that I actually am really loving about XRP's chart right now is that we have basically quadruple tapped this area of support, right? We've got 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4 tap, 5 tap, 5 taps. We have 5 taps on this area of support. Now, again, this is obviously like not exact, right? It didn't come all the way down to 275. But what it's showing you is that every single time it's attempted to push lower, price is rejected. That tells me that price has fuel to move higher. Okay? And now we've got a bullish engulfing developing. We have a bullish engulfing candle developing on the daily time frame. It's taking back all of Monday's sell-off, and it held strongly at this area of support around 285 that is tested multiple times and been unable to close below, right? We've broken through it and we've wicked through it and we've wicked through it, but we have closed above 285. That tells me if we can get a candle to close above 311, it's on like Donkey Kong, right? It is on like Donkey Kong. Okay? And I think that we can continue to push higher. XRP is one of the stronger looking charts right now, in my opinion. It's developed a great base, and this is a really large range to trade. Still at this point, again, like I said, price is still just consolidating and printing side by side, right? Printing side by side. And I hope you can understand the difference between printing side by side and not. If we just even go really zoom in on this, you got price developing side by side here, right? Candle, candle. Where was there space? There was space right here, right? Look at the gap. There's no candles printing. Look at the gap. There's no candles printing, right? That is all that it is. You don't have to make it more complicated than it needs to be. If there's an area where candles are not printing, that is space. And that gives you an opportunity to take a good trade. And you could have taken this trade from 298 down to 285, and that's a good 130 pip range, right? So where is there no space? I mean, where is there no candles developing? Above 311. Then you have space. Above $3.11, you have space, right? Above $3.32, You have space. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So until you get a candle to develop in an area with space to move and in the direction of your bias, you just do nothing. I am really loving the way that this is looking, though. I have to say, this is looking excellent right now. We just needed to follow through and close above 312, 311, and we have a ton of room for movement higher on XRP. Okay, so yeah. All right, that was a lot. I'm sure a lot to take down. Go back and rewatch this as many times as you need to. Really understand what it means when you have ranges developing and how to trade a range. Right, you treat it as a range until it no longer becomes a range. At this point, price is just consolidating. There's no definitive direction. Does that make sense? This was a definitive direction. Boom, higher. Okay? From 227 to 360, that is a trend. That is a complete uptrend. Even from here, from 360 down, that is a downtrend. At this point, we're just moving sideways. Price is not making any higher highs, higher lows. It's just moving sideways. Okay? And until a new trend presents itself, you treat it as it's trading sideways. So that means once it gets to 311, if it starts to form a bearish candle, hey, take it back down to 280. If it closes above your area of resistance, then you have a new range that price can move into. If it rejects here at 332, you can take it back down to 311. Okay? If it rejects from 332, forms support at 311, then you could take a long from 311 up to 332. And you just do that back and forth. You just do it back and forth. It's very simple, really, when you think about it. It is really simple. The hardest thing is sitting here and looking at the chart and telling yourself, the candle hasn't developed the way I want to see it yet, so I do nothing. The hardest thing is looking at the chart and understanding that nothing is developing in a way that is going to give you a good trade opportunity. Your job is that when it does present itself, you jump on and you execute without question. If you're wrong, you're wrong. That happens. That's why you manage your risk. That's why you don't full port into any single one trade thinking that, oh, well, it's developed a candle the way I want to see it, so now it has to go the way that I'm thinking it's going to go. It doesn't have to do anything. You have to manage your risk, but trade accordingly and execute without hesitation. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. And just take it like that, right? And be willing to understand and admit when you're wrong. You have to know at what point is my idea invalidated. And if that invalidation hits, you don't hold the trade hoping that you're going to be vindicated and that price is going to eventually turn in your direction. The market can be irrational much longer than you can stay solvent, right? And that's one thing you have to understand. So, again, if we can get a price to close in a way that will allow this range to fill or will allow this range to fill, you have two really good range fill opportunities. Take whichever one presents itself the cleanest to you. Or take both of them. Who knows, right? You might be able to take them both. But as it stands right now, this, again, in between $3.11 and $2.85, this is a no trade range. You trade above here, you trade at resistance, you trade at support, or you trade above here. You don't trade in between. You do nothing. Okay? So I still think, again, I think that once XRP is able to really close above $3.32, I think that we're going to get a move up into 360. You break above the $3.60 area and you're into price discovery. Okay. One thing that I do love though is that we've created a new all-time high and then we've created an excellent base. We have created an excellent base on XRP that should be a springboard for higher prices. We'll have to see how it develops over the coming days and weeks. But as it stands right now, this is what I'd be looking to see. Something like this. Maybe it gets up in here and stalls, and then boom. That's where you get it to really, really escalate and get the parabolic move to set in. Okay? So yeah. All right, man, that's going to do it for me. I appreciate you for taking your time. I appreciate you for listening. If you have any questions, if anything is confusing to you, if you need anything explained further, drop a comment. Smack a like on the video if you are still here at this point. Drop a sub if you are not subscribed already. It doesn't cost you a single dime, but it does help promote the channel. It helps me out, so I greatly appreciate it. If you found value in this, just let me know. Leave me a comment for anything. Whether you found value, whether you thought it was confusing, whether there's other things you want me to look at, whether you need further explanation, whatever the case may be, go ahead and drop a comment. And yeah, we'll be back. I want to say unless we get something to really just go crazy, right? Until we get if we get a really crazy price movement, we'll probably be back, September 1st or 2nd. Maybe we'll be back on Friday just to kind of, look through how the week went. But as of right now, I would expect continued consolidation going into the end of the month. And the first couple of weeks of September, I think, are going to be explosive. So, yeah. All right, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Until next time, I'll see y'all later. Peace.